Prince had spent years warning Michael about these dangers, and in the end, both of them suffered eerily similar fates. But the biggest question remains, what did they really know, and who was trying to silence them? Music were often targeted. Prince had managed to fight back against Warner and regain control of his catalogue, but he knew that not everyone was so lucky. Michael was already aware of how the industry could turn against people. He had seen what happened to artists like Tupac and Whitney Houston, and he was afraid that he could be next. He even spoke about how he felt his life was in danger. In his later years, Michael became more private and cautious, surrounding himself only with people he trusted. But even then, he couldn't escape the pressures of the industry. Prince and Michael's private conversations. Despite what many people thought, Prince and Michael Jackson were not enemies. The media often painted them as rivals, but behind closed doors, they shared a lot in common. They both understood the dark side of fame, and they had many private conversations about the dangers they faced. Reports say that Michael visited Paisley Park multiple times, and that he and Prince spent hours talking about their experiences in the industry. They both knew what it was like to be at the top, and to feel like they had no real control over their own lives. They talked about the pressures they faced, the people who tried to manipulate them, and the constant fear of being taken advantage of. One of the biggest topics they discussed was ownership. Prince was passionate about owning his own music, and he encouraged Michael to do the same. He told Michael that as long as record labels controlled his catalogue, he would never truly be free. Michael took this advice seriously and started making moves to gain more control over his own music. At one point, Michael managed to acquire a massive amount of publishing rights, including the rights to the Beatles' catalogue. This made him one of the most powerful figures in the industry, but it also made him a target. Many believe that once Michael gained this level of control, the industry elite started to see him as a threat. The influence of Diddy and Jay-Z. One of the biggest warnings Prince reportedly gave Michael was about people like Diddy and Jay-Z. Prince had already distanced himself from these figures because he believed they were working with the very industry elites he was trying to escape from. Diddy had made his name in the industry by forming close relationships with powerful executives. His record label, Bad Boy Entertainment, was tied to Warner Music, and he had built a reputation for being a ruthless businessman. Many former Bad Boy artists had come forward saying that Diddy had exploited them and taken the majority of their earnings. Prince allegedly told Michael that Diddy was someone to avoid at all costs. He believed that Diddy was deeply involved in the industry's hidden power structure and that working with him could be dangerous. Michael took this warning seriously and never formed a close relationship with Diddy. Jay-Z was another figure that Prince was wary of. At one point, Prince thought that Jay-Z might be different from the others, and he even made a deal with Jay-Z's streaming service, Tidal. However, things quickly went south. Prince's estate later sued Tidal for allegedly putting up 15 of his albums without proper permission. The lawsuit claimed that Tidal had fabricated documents and backdated agreements to make it look like they had the rights to Prince's music. This betrayal made Prince even more certain that he couldn't trust anyone in the industry. He saw how major figures like Diddy and Jay-Z were working closely with the same corporations he had been fighting against for years. This only strengthened his belief that the industry was controlled by a small group of powerful individuals who would do anything to maintain their grip on artists. Prince's final days and cryptic warnings. As Prince got older, he became even more vocal about the dangers of the music industry. He spoke at award shows, interviews, and private meetings, warning other artists to take control of their own work. He often said that the industry elites didn't care about musicians and that they would do whatever it took to keep them under control. Shortly before his death, Prince made a series of cryptic statements that left many people concerned. He posted a mysterious message online that read, "Just when you thought you were safe, The post was later deleted, but fans never forgot it. At one of his last public appearances, Prince told a crowd, "Wait a few days before you waste any prayers." At the time, no one knew what he meant, but just days later, he was found dead. Many believe that Prince's death was not a coincidence. He had been one of the few artists who openly spoke out against the industry's corruption, and he had managed to take back control of his music. Just like Michael Jackson, he had gained too much power, and some believe that the industry elites saw him as a threat. Prince's warning about Diddy and the music industry's dark side. One of the most shocking claims is that Prince specifically warned Michael Jackson about people like Diddy. According to reports, Prince knew that certain figures in the industry were deeply connected to powerful forces that controlled artists and their careers. He allegedly told Michael to avoid them at all costs. Diddy's connections to the industry's power players were well known. He had signed a massive deal with Warner Music Group, giving them a 50% stake in his record label, Bad Boy Records. This deal meant that Warner had control over some of the biggest names in hip-hop, including the notorious B.I.G., Mahe, and Mario Winans. Diddy himself even said, "There have been a lot of boutique record labels that come and go, and we're still here." But behind the scenes, things weren't as glamorous as they seemed. Many former bad boy artists came forward over the years, saying that Diddy had mistreated them and denied them the rights to their own music. Some even accused him of taking all the profits while leaving them with nothing. Just before Diddy was hit with multiple lawsuits, he suddenly started giving publishing rights back to some of his former artists. But by then, many of them felt it was too late. The rights were no longer worth much, and they believed he had already made all the money he could from them. Former artists spoke out, saying, "Diddy is just known as the guy that doesn't pay his artists. People laugh about it, but for those of us who worked for years and made him millions, it's no joke." Prince saw this happening long before the public did. He had experienced similar struggles with Warner, and he recognized the same pattern in Diddy's business dealings. That's why he allegedly warned Michael to keep his distance. Diddy's party at Prince's house, the moment that changed everything. Another shocking detail that has emerged is that the first Diddy party that Jason Lee attended was actually held at Prince's house. According to reports, Diddy's parties were unlike any other celebrity events. They were highly exclusive, and there was one strange rule: guests were not allowed to bring their own security. This meant that once you were inside, you were completely under Diddy's control. Jason Lee recalled how bizarre the party was. Celebrities like Tyrese, Demi Moore, and Ashton Kutcher were swinging on swings, creating a surreal scene. But what stood out the most was that Prince never let Diddy host another party at his house after that night. After what he saw, Prince completely distanced himself from Diddy. He never publicly spoke about what happened at that party, but his decision to cut ties said it all. Many believe that whatever Prince witnessed that night confirmed everything he already suspected about Diddy. Even though Prince never directly called Diddy out, his actions spoke louder than words. He avoided any association with him and warned Michael to do the same. Prince's warnings and the hidden industry secrets. Prince didn't just fight his own battles, he also tried to warn others. Among those he reportedly warned was Michael Jackson. They both had experienced similar struggles in the industry, and Prince had seen firsthand how the powerful forces in music could control and manipulate artists. One of the biggest warnings Prince gave Michael was about how dangerous the industry elites could be. He allegedly told Michael that once an artist reached a certain level of fame, they were no longer in control of their own careers. Instead, their lives were managed by executives and businessmen who only cared about making money. These elites would do whatever it took to keep artists under their control, and if someone tried to break free, they would face serious consequences. Michael had already started to notice this himself. He once said in an interview that the music industry was full of greedy and ruthless people who didn't care about the artists. He felt like he was being used and manipulated, and Prince's warnings only made him more certain that he needed to be careful. Prince allegedly told Michael that these industry elites were behind some of the biggest tragedies in music. He believed that artists who spoke out or tried to take back control of their secret friendship was so strong that when Michael passed away in 2009, Prince took it harder than anyone realized. Prince had spent years warning Michael about these dangers, and in the end, both of them suffered eerily similar fates. But the biggest question remains: what did they really know, and who was trying to silence them?